Pink.
Yeah.
Is that Survivor Pink or are you?
It's Survivor Pink and I'm an ADA.
Oh,
Okay.
y'all
It all works together.
son of a
Yes, I'm a
soldier.
survivor, and I made a commitment. My mom had breast cancer as well, and and her sister. So I have a history, and I made a commitment in October to wear pink every day.
All right.
So Roxanne said,
Your favorite color.
right, it is, right? Roxanne said, I would do it with you, but I don't think I have that much pink. I said, don't worry, I got
I
it.
didn't let her, son.
I got that much pink. So, good morning. My name is Jan Desper Peters, and I'm the Executive Director at the Black Mental Health Alliance. And we have a great partnership with Kaiser Permanente. In addition to what you see today, Kaiser Day, with the partnership they have with the Reginald F. Museum, the Black Mental Health Alliance also partners with them on their Great Health, Good Hair partnership. And what that is that they have a great partnership in West Baltimore with 3 beauty and barber salons. And they do a wide range of health initiatives in those beauty and barber salons. And what they realized is that they really weren't addressing mental health. So they approached us to be their partner. And so we do a mental health discussion once a month in one of those beauty and barber salons. And we hope that you will join us for those activities as well. The next one is November 20th. They're usually the 3rd Tuesday of each month. They rotate around the 3 salons/shops. And we will be doing, actually it's a very interesting one. It will be on burnout and self-care. But we have 3 relatives, a father and his 2 sons, that will be talking about it from 3 perspectives. The father is a CPA, so he'll be talking about self-care as it relates to financial stability. The son, who is also my board president, Dr. Jonathan Shepard, is a psychiatrist, so he'll be talking about it from a mental health perspective. And then his brother, I can't remember first name, Shepard as well, last name, but he's a musician and he'll be talking about it from a spiritual perspective because he's also a minister. So I'm just happy to share that information with you. Happy to share information with you about the Black Mental Health Alliance. We've been around for over 3 decades. Some people have heard of us. We're a nonprofit organization. We're located in Baltimore City. We provide education, consultation, and training. We host our own trainings, but we also go out to various locations and provide training as well because we have a training center. We also have a membership component, and so people call us all the time to get referrals to culturally competent therapists. And so we provide that service free of charge. If you'd like to know more about the Black Mental Health Alliance, you can visit our website, but we also have a table upstairs as well. So without further ado, I just want to kind of now usher in why we're here today. So we're here today because we want to talk about suicide prevention and suicide ideation and how suicide really is an issue in the Black community. Some people think it's not. Some people say Black people don't commit suicide. Some people don't want to talk about it. But today we're here to talk about it. And that's really what the Black Mental Health Alliance does. We have those hard discussions around topics that affect our community so that we can empower our community because we know information is what? Power. Power, that's exactly right. And so what better person to do that than Chris Simon? And Chris has an incredible resume, an incredible bio, but I read through it and I've had some great exchanges with Chris. I'm gonna try to, not read to you, but kind of go off the top of my head. So Chris is a Baltimorean. He grew up in Baltimore. He went to the public schools in Baltimore. He went to Morgan State University. He got his undergraduate degree in business management. And then Chris realized, you know what? I'm an entrepreneur at heart, but I also love people, right? And so then Chris went back and got his master's in social work. Chris started doing work in various therapeutic facilities and then also started his own businesses. He not only started businesses around social services, but like I said, for-profit businesses and a non-profit business where he then, provides services to various populations in the community. He does special outreach to various populations in the community, and he just is a great name has evolved over the years, but BTST, the entity that we're most connected through, is his outpatient mental health facility. He has great facility in Baltimore City and also in Prince George's County and in other counties as well. Chris is here today to talk to us about suicide prevention, especially as it relates to the Black community. And I am pleased and honored to host Chris Simon.
How's everybody today?
Okay.
So I might go back and forth between my notes because I didn't come up with a formal PowerPoint presentation because I didn't know what the whole aesthetic and setting was going to be. But as Jan said, thank you for the wonderful intro. We're here to talk about suicide, right? So, by hands, how many people came out to Kaiser today to have a good time, to leave feeling good, to be in good spirits, right? That's good. I'm gonna start by letting you know you're in the wrong room for that right now. Because, you know, suicides are serious. You know, the epidemic that's happening with suicides is a very serious one. So, if you want to hear a whole bunch of great stuff, then cover your ears, or you can get the step in as Martin said, right? But if you really want to, but we will hear some good stuff though, right? But it's towards the end of it, right? Because there's a rainbow at the end of this, right? But in order to get to a rainbow, it first has to rain, right? You gotta go through the storm. So we're gonna start by going through the storm, and we're gonna talk about what suicides are. We're gonna figure out why they're happening, what's happening, what the feelings related to them, and then how we change it. Sound good?
Sound good.
All right. So, what is suicide, right? Suicide is defined as the act or the instance of someone taking their own life voluntarily or intentionally, right? So, I'm going to bore you with a few stats, just so we can put this in context, right? Has anybody experienced the death of someone via suicide? Okay. So we have some, so I gotta make sure that I tread lightly on a few things, right? Make sure that I empathize with your feelings, and I'm sorry to hear that you guys have to experience that. It's not a great thing, it's a difficult thing to deal with, but hopefully by the time you leave, we'll have some insight to what these individuals may have been feeling and what led to these things and how we can work to prevent these for future ones, right? So for adults, estimated 9 million people have reported having suicide thoughts last year. 9 million people had a thought of suicide. Out of those, 2.7 million made a plan of how they were going to attempt suicide. So they not only did they have a thought, they actually developed a POA, plan of action, right? And 1.3 million of those individuals actually attempted it. Because you know that you can attempt the suicide but be unsuccessful, right? So in children, the CDC released a report that said suicides among African American children have doubled within the last decade. These numbers are quite alarming, right? So in these, like you said, these are the numbers that people are actually reported. These aren't the reports of suicides that go unspoken of, that are unsuccessful, right? So for men, we have a few guys in the building. So men are more likely to commit suicide, and the vehicle that we use is a gun. That makes sense, right? When we watch the movies, some people take guns, and we carry guns typically at a higher rate. We've been deemed more violent individuals, right? And women, they're more likely to attempt suicide, and their vehicle that they typically use is via poisoning, whether it's pills, whether it's whatever else, overdose, whatever it is. So men and women are both having this issue. So this is a man. This is not a gender issue. This is something that's affecting everybody. But what I want to do is, and what Jan spoke about, is that I want to focus on suicides within the urban communities, more specifically the African American community. So, why suicides, right? Suicides. We know some of the general reasons. Can anybody help me understand why you might think people commit suicides? Stress?
Economics.
Economics.
Bad relationships.
That will do it to you. Bad relationships.
Health.
Health. Some of the other ones.
Correct.
Parents get divorced. Bullying. Loss of a close family member. You haven't been able to properly grieve and work through that loss. Abuse. Someone they know committed suicide. People who know someone that committed suicide are at extremely higher rates of committing suicide themselves. One, because they have that feeling of grief and loss, but then two, they've seen that somebody actually did this successfully, and they start empathizing with them, or they start blaming themselves in some capacity. So we know some of those general reasons, right? But I don't want to focus on those common words, right? Those common reasons. I want to focus on the feeling that's associated with suicide, and that's a feeling of hopelessness, right? Hopelessness is defined as a feeling or state of despair, a lack of hope. So, yeah, your parents might have divorced, you might be in a bad relationship, but you are feeling hopeless. You're feeling that I have this, I can't be successful in this. I can't go on, right? So, this feeling of hopelessness is not like, it's a deep thing, and I want to explore it a little further so we can put it in context, right? So, as African Americans, right, if you do your history or whatever, you'll see African Americans are some strong individuals, right? Physically, genetics, right? They're some strong individuals. So let's focus on the physical side. Even if you're looking like your textbooks, right? But they say most of us don't read. So let's go focus on something else. Let's draw an example of something more relevant, right? A few months back, everybody were all black. We put our dashikis on. We went to the movies and was throwing up X, right? For what?
Wakanda.
For Black Panther and Wakanda, right? And you saw in that movie, it was some strong people, right? When they were fighting out on the thing and the dudes came from the top, just big, strong individuals, right? We're physically resilient. We know how to defend ourselves. We can protect ourselves. So we're strong, right? We can do that. Mentally, we're strong. We survived slavery. We survived Jim Crow. And we still, in some type of way, find a way to have some type of happiness, right?
And we'll
have some type of joy. And we will continue to survive the trauma, right? So that lets you know where we are mentally strong. That lets you know where we are physically strong, right? If you think about it, in sports, physical sports are dominated by African Americans. Yes. Football, basketball, these things. We are like we have an ability to protect, defend. We're mentally strong. We can't be, can't be wavered. It's not that easy, right? So if we just think about it from the slavery perspective, these people that we're talking about, were whips, we're physically and mentally strong individuals. So this is not something that we just think to give up, right? We keep fighting. So hopelessness, resilience, hopelessness is not something that's typically associated from our genetic makeup and how we're wired, right? But if we go about this even deeper, right? I don't know about you guys, I'm from East Baltimore, I'm from the Alameda, I went to the Clifton, as Jane said. So for me, I know we're processed, we have survival instincts, right? We come with survival instincts from our environment, where we grow up, whatever. I honestly think that in our central processing unit, there's a chip that's there that allows us to be survivors, right? And I'll give out some examples of how we're survivors, right? A lot of us grew up, if you were anything like me, you didn't have a whole bunch, right? And then my mother grew up, and her family didn't have a whole bunch, right? So, but we still made it, right? Anybody ate surf sandwich? Ate some sugar water? Well, I'm speaking, y'all bougie, huh?
You didn't eat the just bread.
I thought this was,
You didn't eat the just bread.
Oh, okay.
I wish.
Okay. So we made some creative stuff, right? Or when you don't have resources, I didn't have a Sega Genesis, right? I didn't have a Nintendo and all these other things initially. So you didn't have all these different games, right? But man, did y'all come up with some games?
Yeah.
Y'all people come up with some games. Red light, hopscotch, Miss Mary, Mac, you know what I'm saying? Even the crates with the basketball and the plywood, right? Because we couldn't afford basketball goals, right? So it's innately in us. It's innate in us for us to come up with stuff, right? We're resilient. We have survival instincts, right? Even if you ask a young kid that sells drugs, it's fine, man. It's all right. Yeah, it's good. Thank you. If you ask a young kid that sells drugs, right? Why do you sell drugs? What is typically they say? Because I got to take care of myself. I got to take care of my little brother, my cousin, my family member, my mother, in some capacity, right? So whether there's wrong or this comes out in a wrong way or not, they're doing this as a means to survive, right? They're not doing this just because they think it's cool. But it's typically out of a position of despair, and I'm doing this because I need to. I need to survive, right? The goal of a hustler, right, is to get in the game, make some money, and get out, right? Because it's about survival. Nobody gets in just because you just want to. Just because it's cool. You're doing it because I have no other resource, right? Survival. Even more. I'm gonna take this one step further, right? If you were to walk by, we were walking a nice sunny day, we're walking by, right? And you fall in a swimming pool. What's gonna happen? And you don't know how to swim. You're gonna be slapping the water, you're gonna doggy paddle, you're gonna think you Michael Phelps, you're gonna try to do everything that you did. I mean, you're gonna do some acrobatic movements to try to stay above that water. And let's take this one step further, right? Don't let a sister that just had a hair done fall in the water. There's no way that her face or her head is going underwater, right? We're gonna survive. She's gonna find a way to make sure she finds it to the wall and get out of there, right? If you think about this, if somebody was to come put their hand on your mouth right now, first of all, somebody put their hand on my mouth, we're gonna fight. Right? I am still from East Baltimore. Don't let everything Jan said fool you. Don't let these seats or anything else fool you, right? We're gonna rough it out. But if you put your hand over somebody's mouth right now, they're gonna fight to take it off, right? You even watch, I watch some movies, right? Some action movies. And it's always typically ends with the bad guy and the good guy and they're fighting. And they typically, they have guns for days, they have bombs, but it never comes to shooting somebody, right? What always happens at the end of the movie? They fighting it out. Like, bro, why didn't you just, you could have ended this a lot easier, right? But they fight it out. And they fight it out to the point until one person chokes someone, but they arm around their neck and they choke them, right? And then they die, right? Or they go limp, right? But even in the midst of being choked, that person is still fighting for their life, right? So it's that built-in survival instinct, right? And now I know we at Kaiser, I know we're in Baltimore City, I know we're at the Reginald F Museum. And I know Kaiser, when I came in, they checked me in. I think they might have checked some of you guys in. But I'm going to take some attendance right now. Right? And I'm going to take attendance of who's here just by asking this one statement and trying to make sure that you're with me, right? So we can understand the level of this survival instinct. If I was to look right there right now and run out that door, what's the next thing that's going to happen?
We're going to get up and run.
We all going to run, right? It's going to be a marathon of escapiness, right? Happening, right? We all run. We don't know why we're running.
Right.
Nobody's going to ask any questions.
Right.
We just all out of here, right? We're going to get out of here. Nobody's going to say, what was happening? I need more information before I go, right? That's not happening. We're getting out of here. It's our survival instinct, right?
Fight or flight.
We're getting out of here. So, what that means, we have an ability, it's instinctively in us to survive, to fight, to be resilient, right? But when you commit suicide, right? You know what that is? It's a level of hopelessness that says when that guy comes through the door shooting, and the mass shooting, versus us all just running, they go introduce themselves and say, yeah, please shoot me. I'm here for that. Or saying, I welcome you to, please can I hold your hand? Can you put it over my mouth, right? Or right here, no, right here is my spot, right here. Do that right there. You know what I'm saying? That's what it is. Or it's like falling in a pool and just allowing yourself to go to the bottom. You're not trying to gas for air, you're just taking it, right? That's what suicide, that's the level of hopelessness that these individuals that commit suicide are dealing with, right? That's a deep feeling. But why do we feel this, right? Why is it this level of hopelessness? So we know, right?
Environmental pressure.
Environmental pressures. But even more, from an African American perspective, when your life is deemed worthless, when you are born and it is deemed that you will never be anything, you're gonna be dead or in jail by a certain age, or that your life doesn't matter. You're just another number in the system, right? Do you feel like there's something to work towards? Or when there are food deserts, right? I call them food deserts. This is Jada's term. She gave me this, so I'll give her credit, right? Which is my partner. She called it a food desert. When's the last time y'all seen a farm in a city? I haven't seen a farm in a city. I mean, in the city where I grew up, we barely had grass. Shout out to that, because I didn't have to cut it. But we barely had grass, right? So we didn't have a place to plant anything. We couldn't grow anything. So what now does that make us? Dependent. We can't grow our own crops to meet our bare necessity of eating. We can't do that. So we now become dependent on somebody else to grow it, to put whatever chemicals they think are appropriate in it, then to sell it to us at a price that they deem is affordable. Right? So there's food deserts. So now when we can't afford it, we're looting, we're robbing, we're fighting each other for food. Right? So then what about also when you don't have, right? So when the entities, when you don't have, you're out, you can't do for yourself, right? So the entities that are in place, called the government, right? To help you be able to meet your needs or to put policy in place so that you can help those in need, right? When they now deem that it's no money in the budget, that's not our focus over there. We're going to cut back this program, welfare. We're going to cut back these entitlements because they're lazy and all this other stuff, right? That's what's happening. Do you feel hopeless or do you feel optimistic or do you feel hopeless?
Hopeless.
When you're a child and you can't even get a job, but these are the environments that you've been birthed into, or when this is all that you know, this is all that you have, right? Because you can't change it. You can't change and grow food and concrete. You can't go get a job when you're 7 years old, right? So you feel hopeless. When our educational institutions are underfunded, right, and overcrowded, right? You know what that leads to? That leads to less time teaching and more time for bullying and abuse and trauma, right? When you feel like I'm not even worth being taught, and so I can't do for myself at 7 years old, and I can't be educated of what I need to do for myself after I'm 7 years old. So you have no way out right now, right? Or when there's taking the school thing one further, when there's a school to prison pipeline, right? When you're being groomed in school to prepare you for prison, right? When you're not being taught entrepreneurship skills, you're not being taught leadership skills, you're being taught history, which is good. You're being taught science, right? But you're not teaching things that can help you survive day to day. Because with all the history that I know, that does not help me pay my bills, right? Right? Or what about when we get sick? Because this is Kaiser, right? When we get sick, right? And healthcare is blocked. When they feel like, yo, we got to roll this healthcare thing back, this is too universal. Everybody's getting this. And if everybody's healthy, then that leads to opportunities for everybody, right? So let's pull this a little back. I'm not about to force, these views do not represent BTST services. I'm just talking right now, right?
Reality.
It's reality, right? So when healthcare is not available, right, and it's taught that if I was born a certain way or under a certain condition, now I have this pre-existing condition, so I'm not qualified or eligible to receive healthcare, right?
Right.
So I'm stuck to deal with what I'm dealing with on my own. And it's expensive for this medicine and all this other stuff. So I'm going to die anyway because I can't get the care I need, right? Hopelessness, right? And the biggest one, not the biggest one, but one of the relevant ones, these intensive growth of killings, right? Yeah, we understand we have black on black crime and there's all this other stuff, and we're killing each other, which we're going to get to, right? But when you're being killed in the streets and you can't get justice, when injustice is being done by the people who are supposed to protect the justice, do you feel helpless Do you feel optimistic or do you feel hopeless? When the people that are supposed to protect me are taking advantage of me, right? You feel hopeless. These are the feelings that these people are feeling, right? You feel it's a level of hopelessness that's leading to these actions of suicide. So how do we correct this, right? So we at the apex of the storm. The storm is now, the sun is starting to come back out now, right? Clouds are moving. So how do we fix this, right? We fix this by, one, we have to stop BSing with this, right? We have to be real about what this is. This is a public health emergency. Suicide is a public health emergency. And it doesn't only affect people that live over here or people of a different color, it affects everybody. And it's growing increasingly in the African American community. So we have to admit that and be willing to say, here's the issue, now let's talk about how we fix it, right? The next thing we need to do is to put the emphasis on mental health, right? We need to break the stigma related to mental health.
Hey,
Kaiser is great, right? We'll go to them for our physical health any day of the week, right? I broke my arm, I'm going in, I'm going to get this fixed. I'm bleeding right now, I don't feel well, whatever, I'm going to Kaiser, right? And thank Kaiser for having great facilities that can treat these individuals, right? But us as individuals, when we deal with trauma, when we deal with loss, do we hop up and go to mental health services like that the same way we come to Kaiser? No, we just learn to deal with it. Our brother got shot unexpectedly. I just got out of a bad relationship. We just deal with these things, right? We just keep moving and keep moving and keep moving. We don't go get our check-ins, our checkups. We don't prescribe the surgery because there's a stigma related to mental health, right? It means that you're crazy, that you walk, you got a jacket on, you walking like this in a white hallway or something, right? That I gotta take medicine, or I might start hearing people talk to me, right? This is what they think, right? Some of these are true behaviors. I don't want to confuse anyone, right? Some of these are true behaviors, but there is a ton, a magnitude of other conditions that aren't that extreme, right? They can be gone untreated, right? But we have to break the stigma related to mental health that it means I'm crazy. No, when you have cancer, does it mean that you're sick? Yes, it means you're sick, but it doesn't mean that you're crazy. When I'm dealing with this, does it mean that when I'm depressed, does it mean that I'm sick? Yes, but it doesn't mean that I'm crazy, right? I'm only crazy if I don't go get it taken care of, right? Treated. So, what do we have to do? So we have to break the stigma related to that. Because here's the thing also, kids aren't dying because of suicide. Suicide is the action. People are dying because of mental health diseases. Let's not confuse the two. Suicide is the outcome, is the vehicle, but the thing that are killing people are these mental health diseases. The other thing that we have to do, we have to change the narrative about how we view ourselves, how we allow others to view us. We have to start educating our children again, right? And we have to start educating our community. We have to begin teaching self-esteem and self-worth, right? We have to let people know what true love looks like and not Instagram likes, right? Because that's what we go to. They like my picture, so I'm loved. They love me out here in these streets, right? My DM is popping and all this other stuff. That's not true love. Once we understand what true love is and we build self-esteem and we build a sense of self, a sense of worth, then you'll realize I need to be here, right? But then the other thing that we have to do, we have to get back and restore humanity, right? Because we're not operating that way. We're taking each other's lives, right? We'll kill somebody. Because you know what? I don't view you as an individual. From technology, right? Because I don't see it, that interpersonal relationship isn't there anymore, right? I see you on a picture, but that's it. You're not really real, right? And I don't even value my life. So how am I going to value your life, right? So I'm quick to take your life because I don't care, right? So once we there's this thing called Black Lives Matter, right? And then some people say all lives matter. Let's forget all of that, right? Let's start with my life matters, right? And your life matters. Let's make this individualized like our treatment plans, right? We gotta make it very specific. My life matters. Your life matters. And when we start realizing that my life matters and there's value to my life, I won't be so willing to take your life. And then I also won't be so willing to take my life. Because here's the thing, people will take somebody else's life easy, right? No, if we're, I'm sorry, let me take that back. If I'm easily to take your life, and there are consequences that happen if I take your life, I might go to jail, there might be some retaliation, right? Can you imagine how willing I am to take my life? There's no consequence if I take my life. If I take yours, I might gotta go to court, I gotta pay for a lawyer, but if I take mine, nobody has to deal with that, there's no repercussion. So once we start understanding and valuing our lives and other people's lives, then we can learn respect for it, we can increase our hopefulness because we can see that we are valuable, right? So, I think that we talked about what is the feelings related to it, what are some of the behaviors, why people feel this way, and how we can fix these things, right? So, what I want to do, I want to leave you with, because while we talked about these, we talked about the issues and we talked about how to fix it, I want to make sure that everybody's aware and can point out some signs before it gets too far, right? So, suicides don't just happen to poor people or rich people, right? We have to define, people think, oh, they're successful, they don't have anything to worry about, right? We have to redefine what success is. Because right now when we say success, we think about financial success.
Right.
Oh, that person got money, they're not. But Biggie said, more money, more problems, right? So we can't always just put it in a way of that you got money, that you okay, right? Because look at Kate Spade.
Yeah.
Right?
Anthony Bourdain.
Look at Anthony Bourdain. Let's look at all these people. And more specifically, have you ever got a check? It's like, man, if I ever get this money, man, I'm gonna be great. I'm gonna be feeling good. Can't nobody tell me nothing. You get money, right? You get a check, but then you still don't like the way you look. You still not happy with your physical makeup, right? You still having that bad relationship. So money does not improve everything, right? It makes some things easier, but it does not improve everything. So once we redefine what success looks like, then we can be more attentive to what the signs are. So some signs that we need to be mindful of really quickly. Rage, anger, or seeking revenge. Acting reckless or engaging in risky behavior. Feeling trapped, like there's no way out. We talked about that. Increased alcohol or drug abuse. And let's be mindful because I know last night was Friday, so I want to walk on eggshells when I talk about alcohol use, right? But literally increase where you become independent. There's a difference between dependency and abuse, right? But when you start abusing this, right? Withdrawing from friends or family or social or society, anxiety, agitation, unable to sleep, dramatic changes in mood, no reason, feeling like you have no reason to live or no purpose, making arrangements to divest from your responsibilities. Like when you start seeing people pull back from this and put people in place with this and start becoming, backing themselves further and further over there. So now they don't feel like they let anybody down when they go, right? So these are things that we have to be mindful of. So what should you do? Obviously, if you feel like you're experiencing this or you know someone else is, you can always contact your local crisis hotline. There are plenty of support services in the community. If you guys need a list of some, Black Mental Health Alliance is the gatekeeper, not the gatekeeper, but they have a full resource book of every place from substance abuse to mental health to everything. And make sure that we, obviously, like I said, start addressing our mental health, Well, I know it does seem gloomy. Just keep in mind, a better tomorrow does start today. Correct? Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah. Did you give out any, I missed the first part of the class, did you give any stats on like the suicide rate of African Americans in Baltimore or the suicide rate of
I
African
gave out some
Americans?
stats here. I didn't hone it into just Baltimore.
Okay.
I wanted to make it specific to African American population or urban population.
Yeah.
I can, if you want, okay, just I have some in my phone, but it was, I can review a few for you. So in adults, 9 million reported having suicidal thoughts. Out of those, 2.7 actually developed a plan to commit suicide. 1.3 million of those actually attempted suicide.
Yeah.
CDC reported that suicide rates among African American teens has doubled within the last decade. I have a whole slew of facts and
Yeah.
stats. I didn't want to bore everybody with them. I wanted to get to some of the other points, but if you give Jan and the
No, I
can send some stuff your way as well.
Yeah, I can look it up on the
Okay.
CDC website.
Yeah, that's a great place to check it out. Yes.
Is that specific age group or just across the community?
Those were 18, those were general, but the majority of them between 18 and 25.
Particularly among our African American girls, that number is increasing at an alarming rate.
Yes.
More so than the other categories.
And also, girls are using guns.
Yes, yes, right. Yeah, that is an
Yeah.
issue.
Any
I-
more?
Go on.
No, I didn't have a question.
And I know it was, I heard this case on the Western Maryland, and they said, well, we just think this young lady was involved in this incident in Annapolis. And Annapolis said, oh no, you might consider her as the leader of the gang. She's no
They're
accessory.
making packs.
Yeah, and this
Yeah,
was the
making
prison
packs,
system
right.
over in Western Maryland, because they had a tunnel view.
Thank you.
I've wondered sometimes when you hear these terrible accidents, if that's not a form of somebody committing suicide, and they're not thinking, who am I taking with me when I cross the line or have an accident? And some of them are just unexplainable how you had that accident.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure there is, you know. I wouldn't definitely rule that out. I mean, you can't get into the people's mind and understand, or if they didn't leave a note or anything like that. But I'm pretty sure. I mean, it would make sense, for lack of a better word, that would be the case. Yes.
First of all, I enjoyed your presentation.
Thank you very much.
There are a lot of external environmental factors that do contribute to suicide, but I think we would be remiss if we did not identify the internal breakdown of family
Yes.
and the abuse that comes with females as well as males inside the home, and the neglect of children, how we now see them as watching television, having their phone, and not having interaction as to being in one accord with my child, and being involved with what happens in the school system, and being a part of that, and finding time to be involved. That would also help reduce when you talk about the Black family suicide reduction.
1,000%. I would love you to go on my next speech with me. It was very strong. It was very powerful. And that is true. The breakdown of the family. Well, it's a institutional flaw, right? It has so many different trickling effects. But why is the Black family broken down? Because maybe they're pulled away because of jobs and they can't be there. So now there's lack of supervision and education system. So it's a multi-dimensional issue. You know that Black families is a big part of it. You know, I agree with everything you said.
My colleague, Richard Rowe, who works with us at the Black Mental Health Alliance, has for years worked in the mentoring space as it relates to Black males, boys, and adult males as well. And he uses this quote from Zora Neale Hurston: "If you are silent about your pain, they'll kill you and say you enjoyed it." That's a Zora Neale Hurston quote. And whenever he uses it, it always resonates with me that what we're doing today is saying that we're not going to be silent about our pain, because whether we know someone who actually died from suicide or not, this is still our community. When we talk about the children and how are the children, Kasirian and Garen, we are talking about not just my two boys or Cheryl's children who works for Black Mental Health Alliance too, or Roxanne's children. We're talking about the children in the community, the village. And so Chris didn't have enough time to drill down into all the aspects of, the Black community. We'll have him come back and talk to us again at some point about trauma, because we know that trauma, especially historical and race-based trauma, really plays effect on this hopelessness that Chris was talking about. And so I just want you, if you have not visited our table, to go past our table and make sure we get your email address, because the Black Mental Health Alliance has this wonderful series that we're going to be doing starting next month called the Trilogy of Trauma. We're going to be looking at trauma as it relates to women, separately women, men, and young people. And we're going to spend, an intensive Saturday morning like this doing that. And BTST is one of our partners in this series. And they and a couple of other outpatient mental health facilities are gonna have their therapists there on site. Because a lot of times when we talk about this and it's like, no, I just, my mom just died, or I just got out of a bad relationship, or I just lost my job. No, I don't need to talk to anybody. Or I don't even know where to start. They're gonna have therapists right there that can sit with people and make appointments so that you can follow up immediately. So, does anyone else have any questions? I just had to say that about that pain piece, because we can't be silent about our pain.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Kaiser has an evaluation, and so if you completed that, you can give it to this young lady at the door. She's volunteering with us at the Black Mental Health Alliance. We would appreciate you